Good morning, everybody, and welcome to spring. Bada boom. It is the 20th of March, and that means it's the first day of spring. What a wonderful thing. And here in Lake City, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful first day of spring. Very, very nice day. So today we are continuing working our way through the fifth chapter of Acts. We are going to look at verses 12 to 16 today is the little bit that we're biting off. And if you remember yesterday, we left off with that somewhat difficult verses that we talked about yesterday. I won't go into it too much, where we were talking about the deception of Ananias and Sapphira, and what that meant to the end result, which they died. But the deception that they had there, and not being straight and honest with God. So that is a real risk, a real cost, a real danger, as they say. So we're going to continue on from that now. So it's kind of an interesting bit of verses that we have immediately following that. Somewhat kind of, and everybody was afraid, right? Is where we left off. Everybody's like, wow, ooh, right, justifiably and rightly a bit apprehensive. So let's take a look at 12 to 16, verses 12 to 16 in the fifth chapter of the book of Acts this morning. Now many signs and wonders were done among the people through the apostles, and they were all together in Solomon's portico. None of the rest dared to join them, but the people held them in high esteem. Yet more than ever believers were added to the Lord, great numbers of both men and women, so that they even carried out the sick into the streets and laid them on cots and mats, in order that Peter's shadow might fall on some of them as he came by. A great number of people would also gather from the towns around Jerusalem, bringing the sick and those tormented by unclean spirits, and they were all cured. Okay. A couple of different things going on in here. First of all, where they're together again in Solomon's portico. They seem to be hanging out in that area. It's on the eastern side of the temple complex. That seems to be where they like to be at. It's been mentioned a couple of times so far. So they're in the temple. That's bottom line. They're not out in the streets. They're being very bold about this. There's a couple of conflicting things here in this. First, verse 13, it says, none of the rest dared to join them, but the people held them in high esteem. And then immediately after that, it says, yet more than ever believers were added to the Lord, great numbers of both men and women. So those two verses, 13 and 14, seem to counter each other. And going back into the Greek, I don't see much help in trying to ferret out why. So it seems to be that and this is true. There's two different energies going on, two different emotions, if you will, going on within those that are listening and hearing. If they're aware of this, all of this that went on with Ananias and Sapphira, there's a bit of fear. This is a dangerous thing to get involved in this movement, because there's a real cost to this. Look at this couple that for whatever reason they decided to hedged on there what they were saying they were giving, and what it cost them, and so there's real power here. So you've got some fear there. So it's none of the rest dared to join them, but people held them in high esteem. Yet more than ever believers were added to the Lord, great numbers of both men and women. Those two just counter one another, and perhaps we're left there just trying to wrestle with that a little bit. I also kind of wonder, perhaps, I don't know, this is supposition. Are there some of the leaders that are seeing this, but they don't dare get involved? Is that what that verse 13 is referring to? I don't know. It's not clear. Even in the Greek, it doesn't give you any guidance. It just seems that these two are, one says one thing, one says the other. But so again, I come back to that feeling of where we wrestle with these things in our own hearts, in our own spirits, don't we, about things like that. But yet, so many more people are seeing it. They're in the temple. We're led to believe that they're probably healing in the temple, but they're definitely healing as they're on their way to the temple. One of the things I find interesting about that, though, is The way the buildings and such are and the narrowness of the streets, not many shadows being thrown as you're walking along there, not unless you're right or midday or something like that, or walking down an east-west street, and there's shadows, but then the shadow is going to be before you or behind you. So that doesn't, there's not a lot of shadows in that setup, because of the narrowness of the streets. The sun would be occluded. So at any rate, but Peter's there is great import put on the power of Peter, as they say, the power that resides in Peter through Christ. It's not Peter's not doing it. So but they are growing. A great number of people would also gather from the towns around Jerusalem. People are coming in. The word is spreading. People are coming in. It's a heady time, as they say. But I think that there are people are realizing, though, that there is a danger to this. So not necessarily danger, but there's a cost. Let's put it that way. You do have to turn. And the interesting thing also about this is that after this powerful thing, this demonstration of these two folks, Ananias and Sapphira, and the reality of that, and even after that, if you will, hellfire and brimstone sermon, if there ever was one in real life, yet a great number of people are adding, and that there is that cost, and a part of me sits there and wonders, have we made, Bonhoeffer talked about cheap grace, and have we made it's such a low entry bar? Have we made it so easy that therefore people don't seem to be interested anymore? Here there seems to be a genuine cost, and they're adding great numbers to their people, and people are flocking to them. And of course, part of that is because of the healing, and we feel like we don't see those miraculous healings by any real extent, a large extent. There are some stories here and there, but we don't see this on a everyday commonness. Here it looks like just his shadow, just walking to and from the temple. He's healing people as he goes. This seems quite amazing and dramatic. We don't see that, but maybe this is partly because we're focusing so much on the healing they're focused on it too, but we're thinking about the healing of the body, and God, of course, is more interested in the healing of the spirit. And at the same time, you have to be willing. You have to be willing. Help me to believe, as the Father said to Christ. You have to be willing to accept that healing. And I don't know that the real world right now is doing that. We've got so many coming from the outside, the secular world, boo-hooing and bashing, and any contradiction. Like here, where you go, we'll make up my mind. Are there people afraid and not coming, or are people coming in droves? Make up my mind. Things like that are easy to ridicule, but the reality is that people are being changed. And change people, as they say. Hurt people, they say too. So perhaps we need to be more changed so we can help change more people. We have to be willing to accept that change and demonstrate that change and be the reality. The disciples are definitely modeling change. They've changed a lot. They've gone from being these scared young men, because they're pretty young. They're probably teenagers, guys. Peter may be 20. They're not young. They're not old. These guys are youngsters, and they see that change in Peter and his attitude, and we need to be changed as well. So, change people, change things. That's how it goes. So with that, I'm going to let you go. It is Saturday. Enjoy the first day of spring. Have a blessed one. Come back and see us tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock for church, and we'll live stream from the sanctuary. Have a blessed day, and we'll also be there worshiping. So if you want to come and join us for worship, come on up. We've been having a lot of fun. We'll see you in the morning, one way or the other. God bless, and take care, and be a blessing to someone today. Tell them it's the first day of spring. They need to, tell them about Christ on the first day of spring. What a better day. Have a great one. Bye-bye.